the do-are. I'm not a doctor by profession, but we're here to share the deep rations of words, self-care, breathing, and healing through storytelling and learning using prose and interaction. Growth is not only a matter of a life cycle, but also death, and there is a number between that. In 7 weeks, I celebrate the coexistence of life and death through a narration of self-care and growth as I turn 27 on the 7th month. And I'll be sharing a short journey of self-care and growth through 7 elements. Most often, we are met with the ideology of the brain and the mind being two different departments, or being one department in two different directions, or two different directions merging into one, whereas the center is not even described or discovered or tapped into, even though it's there, but it's not tapped into or explored in a manner of making more ideas and ideas about it, that it evolves, not only being one stagnant ideology of it, and having to be able to adapt to new technologies as the brain is being adapted to a technology now than just being itself, as the phones or laptops are just as an epitome of the brain. So it's the chair that we sit and sat on that we figure out what the brain is and how to figure out the love, the soul, the embrace, or the essence of it. And a love in the brain shouldn't drain you, or for the polarity of it. So it's more like a Monday to a Sunday thing in terms of having to depend upon 7 days to make things work, or Monday to Friday to celebrate the rest of the 2 days and be in rotation with that. And also the brain is in two departments, of which is the left and the right, the logic and the creativity, and being one-sided instead of having to explore both, like having to be on weekdays and not having to explore the weekends, or exploring the weekends and not having to explore the weekdays properly. So it's what you wake up to know, and not what you will rest to know. So it's more like having to be awakened by something than just to die for something. So it's better to be awakened for something, knowing very well that it's not a duality matter, it's just being whole, as the brain is a whole and it's just driven by two departments. So being driven by two departments, making sure that you're in balance. So it's just a matter of balance, and being information is what most of us desire in this age of information. And I remember when I used to read a lot, and at most times I'd ask myself, these people write and write and write and write, to a point that I just questioned myself, am I going to become those books? And a thought later came to me that it's better to read, but at the end you need to understand that you're also the book. Because most of the times we found ourselves not questioning why we are told what we are being told and why we are following it. Yet we question what my secretive self and my analytical self should merge and be one, or features my creative side and my logic side. As I was told, I'm either half of my brain, not often both. So it's a matter of figuring out, because we live in a faction world that makes sure that there is selective categorization, that you belong here, you belong here. Belonging is not a matter of identity, but having to identify yourself is not a matter of also belonging into something else. it's also having to describe yourself as a whole, not having to say, I'm the head, I'm not the mouth, I'm not the legs, I'm not the arms, I'm not my breasts, I'm not my hair. As a whole, you're a human. We thought that still you're a human because you function as a human. Even handicapped, you're still a human. Same thing as the brain. Whether it's dead, whether it's functioning, whether it's not whole in terms of being left or right, it's still a brain, but as a whole, it's a brain. Because it's just a compartment of the mind, and the mind being the source extractor of the brain, and there are wells we drink from, and there are wells we see from, and the brain functions as that. So we think from it, we see from it, and then we ought to realize that the waters that flow and also find us are reflections of ourselves. So the thoughts are the waters that are in ourselves, and that we also need to find our own flow than having to go with other people's currents, tides and waves and storms and hurricanes, and not knowing what is the context of it. Same thing with the brain. We need to figure out the wholeness of it for yourself, as I did. That's what I've learned with this journey of life. I'm still learning, actually, because it's not a constant thing. It's just consistent and also evolving. So in evolution, you find that the brain is a whole, and the brain is just not a tool to drain your existence. Through the experience of others as your own, but also to tap into your mind as much as those people find their own. And we need to just tap into ourselves, and ourselves being taking care of our brains and making sure that influence is not the primary source of living, breathing, and healing. But with healing, it's different. With healing, it's a matter of finding courage. But with breathing, you can't breathe someone's oxygen, because you might never know if it's carbon or nitrogen. So find your own breathing mechanism and find your own mask to breathe on. Oxygen is not always primarily, like water, the source of breathing. So yeah, that's the brain. Love your brain. Be like Love on the Brain, like Rihanna did say in her song. Love on the brain, it must be.